Hey guys, just want to let you guys know about a brand new channel that we started, the Sleepy Historian Nerd. This channel is designated for people who suffer from anxiety and have trouble falling asleep just like myself. So if you're a fan of sleep or just history or historical mysteries, head over there, support the channel, like the new video that we just uploaded. The link will be in the description box and in the comment section, so go ahead and click it. Cheers, let's get on with the video.
Television is the realm in which strange narratives weave an imagination so wild we can't help but get sucked in. Within this domain, though, fans have found some hidden messages and subtle clues, ones that lie deeper than the surface. These speculations only ever blossom into truths, blurring our collective knowledge of our favorite shows and movies. Number 10. In 1999, one of the most watched movies at the time came to screens. It was an American fantasy comedy drama titled Being John Malkovich, starring John Malkovich as the fictional version of himself. The plot of this film sees an unemployed puppeteer, Craig Schwartz, admitting defeat and accepting a job as a file clerk through Lester Corp. What starts off as a boring office job, though, soon manifests something truly strange when, in a bizarre twist, Craig finds a hidden door. The strange door was hidden behind a filing cabinet within the equally strange office in which he worked. That door would lead him right to the body of John Malkovich. Craig discovers that he can experience the man's mind as a passive passenger, and later figures out that he can control his body. John Malkovich was essentially a vessel for other minds. Craig, though married, found himself swooning over a woman named Maxine and told her about his discovery. Soon, the hidden door becomes a portal for profit. Maxine turns an amazing find into a profitable business, charging $200 for a 15-minute journey into the body of John Malkovich. At face value, it appears this is nothing more than a movie existing within its own realm, with no connection to the outside world or any other film, series, or book. Some fans, though, believe otherwise. Since 2017, there's been a strange theory in circulation, first appearing on Reddit. It's not the regular, the character hasn't been alive this whole time, or this is happening in the imagination theories, but it goes much deeper than that. This suggestion, based on the shared actress being John Malkovich, is taking place in the same universe as the 2017 film Get Out. Get Out isn't your regular horror movie, but it has some pretty intense narratives at play, which allow it to be labeled as a social thriller. The film sees Chris Washington, an African-American man, joining his girlfriend, Rose Armitage, on a weekend trip to the family home. It was here that he would experience an unexpected amount of racism, leading him to uncover the horrifying motive behind Rose's invitation. It turns out that the Armitage family is engaged in a rather sinister plot, one that involves cult activity. By the end of it, Chris discovers that they're kidnapping African-American people, only to brainwash them and implant the minds of old relatives and friends in the bodies of younger, fitter individuals. One of the characters in this film is Missy Armitage, one of the major antagonists in the film, who serves as the matriarch of the Armitage family. A few features of this film suddenly begin to make sense when you realize that Missy is portrayed by Catherine Keener, who is Maxine in Being John Malkovich. It was this very realization that brought fans to a strange conclusion. They suggested that Maxine and Missy are the same person, and therefore the films take place in a shared universe. Supposedly, Missy had married into the Armitage family, changing her name from Maxine. Having gotten a taste of mind control from Being John Malkovich and adapting to the wicked ways of brainwashing and mind transference, fans believe that Maxine's life after Being John Malkovich continued as Missy in Get Out. Number 9. One of the most disliked features in any series or movie is when the good guy turns out to be the bad guy. It breaks hearts all around, leaving viewers questioning the trustworthiness of their own intuition. Listed among the most notable TV moments that left many with an uneasy feeling in their gut was an unfortunate event that took place in Futurama. Initially starting off as a wild fan theory, only to become an unfavorable truth. Futurama, the American animated sci-fi sitcom TV series, was brought to us by Matt Groening. The series focuses on the lives of Fry, a delivery boy, Captain Leela, and a robot named Bender. Other well-known characters include Zoidberg, the alien doctor, Amy Wong, an engineering student, Scruffy Scruffington, and many more. It was just seconds into the year 2000 when Fry had fallen into a cryogenic tube, frozen for 1,000 years, only to be released in the year 2999. He then befriended the Cyclops Leela and the kleptomaniac robot Bender. It was this very cryogenic freezer scene that would become subject to one bizarre fan theory, which had many questioning what they truly knew about each of these characters. In this scene, we see Fry stumble into the freezer, but we don't see exactly how that stumble was initiated. Many would initially assume that it was all a big mistake. The scene certainly suggested that he had simply tripped. That is, until you notice a strange shadow cast upon the floor and wall. It was an odd shape, one that was left open to interpretation initially. The presence of another character suggested something more intentional than accidental. It suggests a plot of wickedness and betrayal. That betrayal becomes all the more apparent when fans announce who they believe was behind it all. Upon taking a closer look at the shadowy figure, comparing it with the characters we know, it suddenly becomes clear. Viewers suggested the wildest idea. Nibbler was the one who pushed Fry into the cryogenic freezer. The Nibbler shadow theory gained much traction on social media platforms like Reddit and forums that are dedicated specifically to Futurama. Together, viewers discussed the plausibility of Nibbler potentially being a villainous creature, one who was sent there for unfriendly purposes. In defense of the beloved character, hoping that the narrative wasn't true, some suggested that given Nibbler's clumsiness, he simply accidentally knocked Fry into the freezer. But then he also told no one about it, and Fry was left to lose 1,000 years of his life. This concept, of course, remained nothing more than a theory for some time, leaving fans to wonder and speculate as they couldn't shake the idea. 4 seasons and 10 episodes later, the anxiety surrounding the whodunit question could finally be put to rest. Titled The Why of Fry, it's revealed that Nibbler was the one who pushed Fry into the freezer, and it was no accident. It turns out the adored Nibblonian lured Fry to the lab by ordering pizza, before nudging him into the tube, and setting his release for 1,000 years. This act, as evil as it may seem, was not without cause, though. While fans sat staring open-mouthed at this revelation, it was explained that Nibbler had deliberately placed Fry in the future, where he was needed to save the universe from the brain spawn. During a conversation between these two characters, Nibbler even says, "You're the last hope of the universe." Number 8. One of the most popular horror movie franchises, next to Scream and A Nightmare on Elm Street, is Saw. The first film of the franchise was released in 2004, marking the beginning of the 10 that would follow. The original Saw centers around a serial slayer named Jigsaw, who traps his victims in games that are often life-threatening. His motive is to test their will to live and to rehabilitate them. In this film, 2 men, a freelance photographer named Adam Stanheit and an oncologist named Dr. Lawrence Gordon, become 2 of the victims of this maniac. They awoke in a dilapidated bathroom, chained by their ankles to the pipes on either side of the room. Between them was a corpse, holding a revolver and a micro-cassette recorder. The 2 players each find a tape in their pockets. Adam's tape tells him that he needs to escape, and the voice urges him to do so as quickly as possible. In contrast, his opponent is told that he needs to take the other's life. If he doesn't do this by 6 p.m., his wife and daughter will both be executed. As the movie unfolds, the 2 discover hacksaws in the tanks of the toilets they're attached to. This discovery meant that they could escape their chains, but a sacrifice had to be made. The hacksaws couldn't cut through metal, but they could saw through a foot. Hoping to save his family, Gordon gets a hold of the firearm that the corpse was holding. He fired at Adam, but instead of slaying him, he only wounded his opponent. Adam then bludgeons another trap victim, Zepp Hindle, who'd attempted to slay Gordon himself. The oncologist then decides to finally sever his own foot and crawl from the bathroom, leaving Adam to fend for himself. As he wiggles off the screen, red liquid trailing after him, Gordon disappears, and Adam is confronted with even more horror. It was implied that Gordon doesn't survive long enough to get help. At least that's what producers wanted viewers to think. True movie watchers, though, know that if there isn't a body, then the character is still alive. It was this idea that birthed the theory that Dr. Lawrence Gordon did in fact survive. But not only that, fans speculated that he would become Jigsaw's successor. The Maniac was known to recruit the survivors of his morbid game, making them into apprentices and partners, where they serve as accomplices in his disturbing world. And it seemed a little forced at first, especially since a theory wasn't revealed in Saw 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 6. When Saw 3D or Saw 7 rolled around, though, the doubters were proven shockingly wrong. It was in this sequel that Gordon's new role was revealed. The Doctor had become the secret apprentice to Jigsaw, performing medical work for the traps. At the end of the film, he plays a tape that was left in his office. The tape was from the Maniac Jigsaw, who described Gordon as his greatest asset, suggesting that without him, his work wouldn't have been possible over the years. Number 7. Bionicle is a storyline and a line of toys created by the Lego Group, launched in 2001. 2 years after the release, the Bionicle story was adapted into a film series, which saw the creation of 4 films: Bionicle Mask of Light, Bionicle 2, Legends of Metru Nui, and Bionicle 3, Web of Shadows, and finally Bionicle The Legend Reborn. The characters, of course, were adapted from the toy collection itself, which included Toa Vakama, Rudaka, Makuta, Toa no Kama, and Mata Nui. There are many more characters present in the film series, where they all split into factions of heroes, villains, and neutral groups. Each film presents a new adventure and a new storyline that the characters must face. The fan theory, in this case, relates to one particular character who wasn't always a character. It was back in 2007, just 3 years short of the final film release, when some fans found themselves on a forum dedicated to Bionicle, specifically for the discussion of storylines and theories. One of those theories concerned Mata Nui, the island that contained the city of Metru Nui. Fans theorized that this wasn't an island at all, even though it looked very much like the rest of the terrain on planet Aqua Magna. Instead, they suggested that the island was really just one gigantic robot. One member of the forum became so deeply invested in this idea that he submitted detailed evidence, complete with visual aids, images, and unmistakable clues. For example, he suggested that 2 sun holes, Lake Kenai and Lake Palma, seen at the southern end of the landmass, looked suspiciously like eyes. The original poster of this seemingly far-fetched idea even got an award from an admin for the plausibility and well-thought-out idea. Still, the fans' theory was nothing more than just that. For a couple years anyway. Viewers found themselves in a state of shock when Bionicle, The Legend Reborn, revealed something only a few suspected. Mata Nui was, in fact, a gigantic robot. It turned out that some years prior, the robot with camouflage abilities had crashed into Aqua Magna, where he found his inner workings malfunctioning, leaving his camouflage system severely damaged, concealing him, or at least his face, as an island. Number 6. Among the most read and watched Marvel hero franchises is Spider-Man. The plot follows the life of an average teenager named Peter Parker, who accidentally is bitten by a radioactive spider, gaining superhuman abilities that allow him to walk up walls and save the day. After deeming himself Spider-Man, he sets out to rid the streets of crime, often bringing him into conflict with malevolent forces, such as Electro, Sandman, Morbius, and Mysterio. In the film franchise, Quentin Beck, known by his villainous alias Mysterio, serves as the main antagonist in the 2019 installment, Spider-Man Far From Home, and as the overarching antagonist in the 2021 sequel, Spider-Man No Way Home. Mysterio wears a domed helmet that obscures his face, reminiscent of a fishbowl. His suit is metallic and features a prominent cape with glowing lights. It's this very Spider-Man character who became the center of one strange conspiracy theory turned fact. More specifically, the theory connects this character with actor Bruce Campbell, who appears in all of the Spider-Man films directed by Sam Raimi. Sharp-eyed viewers begin to pick up on these cameos, leaving them to arrive at just one conclusion. Campbell is Mysterio, or at least he was intended to be. Fans suggested that he was data harvesting, collecting all the necessary information he needed to fight against Spider-Man, while blending in with the crowd and remaining inconspicuous. A similar theory regarding this actor suggested that Campbell wasn't Mysterio, but was instead a henchman who was still collecting data to feed to his villainous boss. Many believed that the reveal of Mysterio's identity would come in Raimi's Spider-Man 4, a film that was cancelled, subsequently destroying all hope of knowing the truth. Or did it? It turns out, before that movie was ultimately cancelled, Raimi confirmed the circulating theory. Although viewers never received verification through the actual film, they did get it from the director himself, leaving another theory conjured up by quick-thinking viewers proven true. Number 5. The American animated television series Gravity Falls will never run out of conspiracy theories. There are many layers, writing narratives, subplots, and more subplots on top of those subplots. The show follows twins Dipper and Mabel Pines as they head to Gravity Falls, Oregon, to spend the summer with their great-uncle, Grunkle Stan, who harbors some strange mysteries of his own. The siblings help their uncle run the Mystery Shack, a tourist trap that overcharges customers. Dipper and Mabel quickly find themselves spun in the web of shocking secrets and sinister things that lurk within the town. They find themselves encountering the strangest of creatures, from gnomes and grimlobins to pterodactyls and multi-bears. They're also forced to confront the disturbing and villainous acts of Lil Gideon and the demonic entity known as Bill Cipher. It's clear that this show is home to a treasure trove of conspiracy theories and serves as any fan theorist's dream. If you think it's happening in Gravity Falls, then it probably is. Despite the amount of accuracy that many fans have found in their suggestions, there's still one that comes as a shock. In the Gravity Falls fandom, viewers developed the Stan twins theory, suggesting that Grunkle Stan has a twin brother. The popular theory ran throughout the course of the show, as many kept their eyes peeled, hoping to catch another piece of supporting evidence, which popped up in the background elements in several episodes. Elements that only a handful of fans caught on to. While initially appearing on occasion, it wasn't until the Dreamscaperers that it finally gained traction. A handful of viewers paid close attention to the background of one of Stan's memories, and the gang was rummaging through his mind, trying to chase after Bill Cipher. In memory was a time when Stan was a kid, showing him wrestling in the ring. As most of the focus is on this event, looking toward the background reveals the first bit of clear supporting evidence. It's another kid whose face is intentionally concealed by a book. His hairstyle, hair color, skin tone, and even his outfit are all likened to Stan's. From there, fans went tumbling down the rabbit hole, uncovering more and more observations, including the number plate of Stan's car. The plate read STNLYMBL, revealing the name Stanley and the word mobile. Of course, many would assume that this was referring to Grunkle Stan, but Stan's full name isn't Stanley. Supposedly, it's Stanford. Another clue came in Gideon Rises, when Stan heads to his hidden chamber and activates the portal by placing all of the mysterious journals down. In this scene, the character states, "We finally have them all." Emphasis on the "we." With the observations, fans held the theory in the back of their minds as they eagerly awaited the reveal. That reveal finally came in the episode, A Tale of Two Stans. The theory was revealed to be true. Stan did have a brother, not a twin, but a fraternal one. It was also here that we discovered that Grunkle Stan's real name isn't Stanford at all. His real name is actually Stanley, and he was using Stanford's name to conceal his identity. Stanford, who went by the name Ford, was also the true author of those mysterious journals that make up an integral part of the series. The number plate of Stan's car did suggest that he wasn't who he seemed, but also tricked viewers into believing that the car belonged to someone else, not that the deuteragonist was pretending to be someone else. Number 4. In 2016, Netflix released an original series that became the most watched series of the year. It was the American sci-fi series Stranger Things, where dark secrets and sinister creatures lurk. The show takes place in the 1980s and is set in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana. The first season begins with the strange disappearance of Will Byers, prompting numerous groups to conduct separate investigations. Will, though, wasn't just another missing kid who would be found lost in the forest or kidnapped. He was in a place much creepier, the Upside Down, abducted by the Demogorgon. Along the way, we meet some interesting characters, including Will's immediate friend group consisting of Dustin, Mike, and Lucas. Fans couldn't help shake the feeling, though, that they'd seen the friend Steve in a different series, or at least someone who looked like him. As the seasons drew on, viewers began trying to get to the bottom of it. After scouring through previously watched TV shows, they finally found what they were looking for, a discovery that would lead them to an outlandish conclusion. The similar-looking character that they were searching for was in the series Parks and Recreation, an American sitcom. This show, just as popular as Stranger Things, dates back to 2009. It follows the humorous relationship between government employees of the Parks and Recreation Department, the fictional town of Pawnee, Indiana. While it's clear that these series are worlds apart, completely different from one another, there was a strange similarity that fans found. One recurring character in Parks and Recreation was a man named Jean-Ralphio Saperstein, who was equipped with 2 house arrest bracelets, the first person to do so in Pawnee. Jean-Ralphio is a friend of Tom, with whom he shares a similar personality, and he also has a sister named Mona Lisa. This character, portrayed by Ben Schwartz, has a notable appearance, one that offers a sense of familiarity. That's because he shares a striking resemblance to Stranger Things' Steve Harrington. This similarity led viewers down a strange path. They suggested that Steve is actually the father of Jean-Ralphio and Mona Lisa. The idea found its way onto the fan theories subreddit, where the poster was criticized for their outlandish theory, with many stating it was possibly the worst theory they'd ever heard. The idea was that the Saperstein siblings were the product of Steve and Nancy. It was theorized that the couple suffered a traumatic event that led Steve to change his name to Dr. Saperstein and move out of Hawkins to Pawnee, where he raised Mona Lisa and Jean-Ralphio. It would have been easy for this crazy suggestion to remain just that, something that viewers may discuss over lunch or debate on a group chat. But luckily for us, James Corden became just as curious about the truth. Joe Keery, the actor who portrays Steve Harrington, and Ben Schwartz, the actor who plays Jean-Ralphio Saperstein, sat down together on The Late Show with James Corden, and it was here that the wild theory was addressed. Corden asked if they could provide some sort of resolution, one that would allow us to get some sleep at night. The actors confirmed that the worst theory ever was actually right. Steve is Jean-Ralphio's father. The parallels are uncanny. Both men are from Indiana, in fictional towns that are not too far from one another. They share a similar appearance, and they even hold the same interests and ideas. Number 3. In 2013, one of the greatest American adult animated series came to television screens. Rick and Morty, created by Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon, burst with color, insane storylines, and even stranger characters. The plot centers around Rick Sanchez, who disappeared for 20 years only to reappear on his adult daughter's doorstep, quickly becoming an integral part of the family. But Rick was something of a mad scientist and worked on all kinds of dangerous gadgets and contraptions. Often, he would rope his grandchildren, Morty and Summer, into his insane adventures, pulling them directly into harm's way on countless occasions. The group ends up going to alternate dimensions, exploring other planets, and visiting strange domains, making numerous friends and enemies along the way. One of those friends was Bird Person, whose name directly explains exactly what the creature is. Bird Person has known Rick for a good amount of time, and has seemingly also known Morty since he was just a baby. After being introduced in the episode Ricksy Business, where he attends a party hosted by Rick, Bird Person finds romance with one of Summer's high school friends, Tammy, and the two later go on to get married. The fan theory concerns both of these characters, Bird Person and his non-half-bird wife. At some unspecified point, viewers began to suspect that something was up with Tammy. First, in the Me Seeks and Destroy episode, she seems to intentionally target Summer at Harry Herpson High School, befriending her almost instantly. It was a feature that had some fans instantly suspicious of the character, but they weren't quite certain as to why she was suspicious just yet. The distrust only deepened in the party episode, when Tammy became overly attracted to Bird Person. Her attraction towards him seems oddly high for the character, especially considering that Bird Person is much older than her and isn't exactly charming. Her love interest in an alien insurgent served as the perfect cover for whatever secret things she was up to, according to some sharp-eyed viewers. While they still couldn't say exactly why they believed Tammy was suspicious, they couldn't shake the feeling, and they just had to wait until it was finally revealed. That reveal came on the day of Bird Person and Tammy's wedding. The foreshadowing was unignorable. The gathering in celebration of the wedding was convenient. It saw the congregation of many wanted criminals, including Bird Person himself, Rick, and Squanchy. Each of these characters was a criminal wanted by an organization known as the Galactic Federation. During the wedding, Tammy reveals herself as a deep cover agent for the Federation. While making a toast, the agent pulls out her Federation identification, exposing who she is, before drawing an alien-like firearm and turning it on her new husband. Bird Person is left deceased as the rest of the agents of the Galactic Federation swarm in, armed with laser-like weapons. The entire venue is left in a state of disarray and chaos as Rick desperately tries to portal himself and his family out of the area. The agents make their efforts to either capture or slaughter the rest of the criminals, while Tammy tries to detain Rick. Luckily, the family makes a lucky escape, but in the episodes to follow, Tammy's unrelenting need to capture Rick is revealed. Number 2. Mr. Robot, the American drama thriller series, follows a haunting plot. It sees Elliot Anderson, a cybersecurity engineer, becoming a vigilante hacker as he battles mental health issues as well as addiction. From the first season, Elliot is recruited by a shadowy organization consisting of hackers called F Society. The group's primary purpose is to expose and dismantle the world's largest and most corrupt associations. In this case, their focus is on an E-Corp. Amid this immoral act, Elliot uncovers a world of darkness, not only in his own past, but also about the world and the true nature of the titular character, Mr. Robot himself. Season 2 of the series follows the F Society hack, focusing more on Elliot's efforts to control his Mr. Robot personality. One of the other characters, Darlene, is left in charge of the organization, while Elliot faces FBI investigations. This season reveals the fallout of the hack, as well as the rise of E-Corp's eCoin. This season, though, was bound for a shocking finale, one that some fans had already guessed. First appearing on the Mr. Robot subreddit, fans began to surmise that Season 2 takes place while Elliot is in prison. Their evidence for this narrative came from Season 1. At the end of this season, a knock at the door signals the return of the police, who are coming to inquire about the passing of Shayla, which is standard procedure. But the arrival of the police, fans suggested, was actually to arrest Elliot instead. Further evidence for this idea began in the very first episode of the next season. The initial observations made by some intrigued viewers suggested that the character was in prison, and he was warping his own experience in an effort to make it more comfortable. These observations included the size of his room, which was small, rectangular, and allowed no access to the internet. All Elliot had was a notebook and desk. Each of his meals was scheduled, starting with an 8 a.m. breakfast, a 12 p.m. lunch, and 6 p.m. dinner. The mother figure in the season also acts like a prison guard who instructs him on when to wake up and when to go to sleep. At exactly 10 a.m., Elliot will be, quote, helping out around the house, showing similarities to prison work. 2 days a week, he's subjected to a group meeting, a feature prevalent in most prison systems where rehabilitation is a focus. His visit from Gideon is also likened to that of a jail visitation. The men are both separated, and when voices are raised, the mother figure immediately turns around to ask what's going on, much like a prison guard would. One of the most telling pieces of evidence for some fans, though, came in episode 4, when Darlene says, "I'll never understand why you did this." This implies that Elliot may have openly confessed, telling the police that he was involved in Shayla's demise when they came knocking back in Season 1. While it may have seemed like too big of a plot twist, fans were right to be distrustful of what was being presented, especially through the routine life that Elliot lived with his mother. Viewers hit this fan theory right on the nose. In episode 7 of the second season, the truth is finally revealed. In one scene, Elliot's psychologist, Krista, reveals that Elliot's interactions and his settings are all part of his experience in prison. Number 1. Spanning 8 seasons, from 2006 to 2013, and becoming the most rented DVD box set in Netflix history, was the American television drama Dexter, a show that follows the life of a vital fluid analyst working for the Miami Metro Police Department. The man, Dexter Morgan, though, leads a double life. While investigating homicides, he hunts down and slays the suspects who've seemingly escaped the justice system. As the storyline unfolds, we're introduced to a variety of characters. But as watchers began to catch on to the idea that some of the characters with whom Dexter and other characters interact with aren't real, the line between who was an actual person and who wasn't became increasingly blurred, leading fans to only guess at who is and isn't who they appear to be. This is where the popular Geller theory comes in. The Geller theory refers to one prominent character, Professor James Geller, who appears in the 6th season of the show. He was once a professor of religious studies at the University of Tallahassee, and there he was fascinated with the concept of end times mythology. He wrote several books on the subject before being fired. He subsequently vanished until his name began to appear with the start of doomsday slayings. Some fans, skeptical and with the who is real question in mind, found themselves growing suspicious of Geller. He was portrayed as a living character who was involved in creating the doomsday tableaus. Throwing many viewers off the scent was also the fact that Geller could seemingly interact with the physical world, and in one of the episodes, another character who was captured expressed that she heard 2 voices talking to her during the ordeal. He was also not someone that Dexter had interacted with, but was seen around another character, Travis Marshall, instead. But this was no match for those sharp-eyed fans who began to surmise that he was nothing more than just another of the hallucinations that showed up in the series. It was a theory that took social media by storm, especially when the season was drawing to a close, with 8 episodes down and just 4 more to go. It was time to ask the real questions. Fans suggested that Geller wasn't real and was rather the product of Travis's mind. The physical acts that Geller seems to perform are actually being carried out by Travis, who doesn't even realize that he's doing it, they theorized. There were some doubters of this theory, given that the hallucination was happening with the main character, as it generally would. Doubters cited Geller's spying activities as credence to the idea that he was real, but there were many more clues against this concept that suggested he was a hallucination. Believers of the idea suggested that no one ever interacted with Geller except for Travis, and no one notices him or even talks to him. This character also appears to have an inconsistency when it comes to the matter of free will. So with 4 episodes to go, one of them was bound to confirm or deny the Geller theory. At the very end of season 6, Dexter discovers the deceased frozen body of the professor in the church's basement. His passing was not recent either. Turns out he'd been there for the past 3 years. Travis, who has severe psychological issues, had been hallucinating him the whole time, as a character who helped him carry out the doomsday slayings. In another plot twist, it was also revealed that Travis was Geller's student, and he'd been the one to abruptly end his life. The season finale ultimately confirmed the fan theory right, even if it was far more obvious. This revelation made Geller's existence in the series a false main antagonist, leaving viewers either patting themselves on the back or staring wide-eyed at their TV screens. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.